All right, and we're live. Welcome to the Trampled Underfoot podcast show. Your hosts are Mark Lindsay and Eloy Escajedo. This is Tuesday night. And what's going on, Mark, and everyone out there?
Well, now that we're both caffeinated, hydrated, and ready to rock and roll, I'm just glad to be upright without a helmet on. I tell you, I'm really getting kind of, I don't know. Can hermits get cabin fever? Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, they can get
You,
all sorts of fevers.
you think they can get okay? Because I don't go many places. I mean, a trip or two to the store, a trip or two into town,
My lord. Wow.
and I'm talking per month. And I'm a happy guy. I'll put it to you this way: I can't tell you how much a gallon of gas is here because I haven't bought gas in so long. It's not even funny. Linda is more the social butterfly of the family. She's the one that fills up the car because I don't drive it enough to use any gas. So, you know, uh, but the dreary weather, cloudy, rainy, constant drizzle. And I know this is only, well, we're in the middle of March. I got a long way to go yet, and I know it, but man, does it just ever.
We just started, and I'm already being attacked by by he's on. Let's attack.
I'm not attacking you. I'm just attacking the weather, man. It's like, okay.
No, I meant Greg because to it just.
Oh, it all just came up here. Okay, wham. All that just popped up on my screen.
Well, but see, no, but that's how imagine. So imagine like if one like they say a few things, but like within spacing, but the computer stalls, and then at one point it all populates like there, and then you say, "Damn, what's going on here? What kind of So there's that kind of a possibility."
I'm telling you, what? No, none of those comments popped up on my end. I saw none of that. All of a sudden, you were talking about, man, already attack. And I thought, well, what are you talking about? And then all of a sudden, bang, a whole bunch of comments popped up all at once. Everything from Steve saying, hi, Greg, all the way down to Jim Dockrell popped in. Was Eloy out of coffee? Don't drink from the wrong cup. I never saw those comments. So, and that's, I guess, what you were talking about. Oh boy, here we go. Jim Dockrell. No one told me it was bank run season. I still have my train derailment decorations up. Well, you got me beat, Jim, because I was still holding out for another spy balloon. So you were a step ahead of me on the train derailment.
If our banks, I don't even want to say it, but like let's say some terrible thing, and let's say Canada comes up on top of that one, and they become like the thing. Just keep us in mind. We were friends.
Yeah. Oh no,
we were friends prior to the collapse of the Roman Empire. Just keep us in mind and remember that it's not like it was all. I mean, Greg, I keep attacking Greg myself, so maybe I will not find hospitable circumstances in Manitoba, but perhaps Jim has a different slant on the situation, and we will have refuge at some point.
They say that fortune favors the brave, right? I also firmly believe that there is strength in numbers. So I figure there's 38 million of them. There's 330 million of us. We kind of have the numbers, and I don't plan on being part of the first wave. So, I get my first Social Security check next month. I'm way beyond that age to go pick up the pitchfork and torch. I'm one of those guys that sweeps up after it's over,
But you see what we're thinking already? We're thinking invasion in order to reestablish our standard of we must not think this way. Remember, this was Mark saying that. I was asking, but if if asking don't work.
No, see, I believe in safety in numbers, because if I get up around Greg's neck of the woods, I'm going to ask him for a good fishing spot, and that's about it, he can take me to his favorite Slurpee hangout, and we can go fishing. You know,
We can just send them all our complainers over there. Like
I
say,
thought
you know what? The first brigade, and we send them off with like parachutes, but the parachutes. See, I don't want to. If I were to say the pictures that are
but
populating in my head of the color of the parachutes and the military attire, we send them first.
the problem with that is we tried that in the 60s with the draft dodgers running up there. Then we tried it after a couple of presidential elections, and it just doesn't work. You know,
Instead of
because the problem with all of that is they, well, I'm moving to Canada, and they never stop and think about, well, would Canada even let me in? And the answer is probably no. You know, it's just like, what do you got to give us? Because, you know, we're not just here to be your second choice. You know, we gotta make something out of this. So, you know, uh Jim says, we sent you Celine Dion and Justin Bieber. I guess we owed some revenge. No, you know what? Celine Dion, I mean, God love her. uh, God love her. The Biebs, we might have to talk, but I got no axe to grind with Celine Dion at all.
they also sent us Jim Carrey, which he, to
Mm,
be fair, although
that could be
he's
good or bad. I mean, you know,
to be fair, as actors do, they all get politically and political here and there. But as far as like movies and this and that, he has done. There are some. Yes, not everybody likes him because he's over the top, but he has done some. So there's that, and then there's Dan Aykroyd. Come on, you
well,
know.
I'm waiting for Jim Carrey to do Ace Ventura 5: The Apology. And until that comes along, I mean, you know, now Jim's going down the list. He did Nickelback. I said, well, I can forgive Nickelback because there was also Bachman Turner Overdrive. There was also the Guess Who. And the biggest of all, there was also Rush. So, you know, I mean, not everything you put out is perfect. I mean, and believe me, we put out several lemons ourselves. All right.
Um,
So
speak for yourself.
no, I mean,
Who?
Casey and the Sunshine Band, come
They're from
on.
Miami. Thank you very much.
I don't
Awesome.
give so I don't care where they're from. I don't care if they're from my home. All right, Paul Revere and the Raiders. My
What?
namesake. It's like, oh my God.
What was one of their hit songs?
Exactly.
No, no, seriously. What was one of their hits?
Oh, Indian Reservation.
Oh, that was a good song.
It was okay, but no, Greg, I'm that I'll push back. Neil Young
No,
is yours.
see, Neil Young committed two atrocities in his lifetime. One was his dig at the U.S. and where Leonard Skinner created that
Back at
song,
him, yeah.
and that cemented a certain type. Even though there's plenty of Americans that dig, like I grew up like with friends. I didn't listen to it directly. I listened to Neil Young indirectly through my friends because that's how
Hmm.
it worked. But I never made that. I had other entertaining. I was
Hmm.
whatever Bob Dylan and this and that, but they liked him. And even though the connections of their his little swipes at the U.S., but that was one first thing where that song came out, and people take that to heart. Whatever. And then there was this recent debacle or such scenario where he asked to be, what was it? Put
Spotify, yes. You
Yeah,
take oh gosh, Joe Rogan. You take Joe Rogan offer. I'm pulling on my music, and they were like, "Go ahead. You know, it's been fun. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you." You know,
yeah,
and it's like,
yeah,
dude, you haven't been relevant since 1973. Are you kidding me?
yeah. That whole
So,
free speech, or I guess so. Those are 2 points where Neil Young. So it's kind of like he's on the fence depending on who you talk to. But there
mhm.
are some broadly Canadian like actors, talent, musicians that are roughly. I mean, heck, you can find like not everybody likes Rush, let's say,
Yeah, and
but
but that's legit. You're into personal tastes, then
right.
that's legit. You know, but I don't think them sending us Rush and we sending them Sugar Sugar by the Archies was a fair trade.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
So
I think they got a sweet deal with that one because I mean, think about it. You're driving along,
no,
honey.
no.
Da, 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 da. Come
Dude,
on.
that's the kind of music they play at max volume on the big speakers to try to get guys like Noriega to come out of the embassy
You
on
are
an
my
endless
candy
loop,
girl.
No, that's for psychological warfare, is what that music is for. So
Put a
now,
little sugar on it, baby.
Jim also brings up that's the same as Ted Nugent. Just shut up and play your guitar already. I agree. I'm not interested in anybody's political views. I'm not interested in them. I play guitar, sing, perform. That's your job.
You know who's the
You
best
know,
at that?
what's that?
In my
Who's that?
opinion. Maybe not one of the best at not putting out
Mm-hmm.
opinions. Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike John Lennon.
Oh yeah.
Paul McCartney, maybe John Lennon's and Paul McCartney's sort of like union within the band allowed for John Lennon to be as crazy as he wanted,
Yeah.
and yet Paul to be focused on what he, and so they canceled out each other so that it's not too offensive because Lennon could say some really out of your skull things.
Oh, it was the time.
But it was the time. But Paul McCartney wasn't necessarily, and never has been, so that all sorts of people don't quite. You get an idea, but you don't quite know where he may or may not stand in sort of controversial things. And I think that helps allow me to enjoy without that bull
Yeah.
crap in the
Yeah.
or if you want to talk about, you could do a song about it. I think that some sort. I mean,
Well,
that if you come out brazenly, you know what
if
I'm saying? Like,
you can have an opinion, I'm not for shutting anybody down, and you have free speech. But just know that when people go to see you at a concert, they're there to see you perform. They're there to see you and experience your music. You are not going to change anybody's political mindset. You are definitely not in a position of power or authority where you can tell people what to do. So why not give them, I mean, they spent their hard-earned money to come see you. Why not give them the experience that they paid for, which is an enjoyment of their evening? You want to get on your soapbox on Twitter, go for it. But let's keep the concert what it's supposed to be, And and I don't care who you are, where you're from, or what side of whatever perceived aisle you think you're on. I'm not here to listen to you talk. I'm here to listen to you play and sing.
not everybody followed those rules across the ages,
Understood.
and I don't know. And some of them I like. Like there was this band called Body Count,
Mm-hmm.
which was, I forget the rapper's name, but in the early 90s, late 80s or early 90s, he joined up with rock and rollers and
Mm-hmm.
created a band, Ice-T, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a rap fusion heavy metal band.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole album was frick. I don't know if I'd like it now listening to it back, but back then as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
that fusion made the rap, which I did not particularly like whatsoever, more palatable. But the union of those two things was such a synergy type thing. And they talked a lot of controversial stuff in that
And,
album.
and there's a market for that. And if that's the kind of act you are, if that's the kind of group you are, and the kind of music you're performing, more power to you. But what I'm talking about is the unexpected tirade or to me it's ego driven. My opinion means more than yours, or
Yeah,
you don't know, so I'm going to have to tip you off to my well of knowledge. Never mind the fact that half of them have spent less time in school than their audience.
yeah.
So That's more along the lines. If you want to do that type of of streetwise harsh reality, then more power to you. More power to you, because I figured that gets down to choice. I have a choice as to whether or not I like that and whether or not I want to listen to it. But if I want to go to I'm just going to pick a fictional name here, Dizzy Whatnot concert, because I like Dizzy Whatnot's music. I don't want to hear a big old long half-hour lecture about the evils of my lifestyle or the guy next to me's lifestyle. It's just
Dizzy,
none of their business. Just play, you know.
yeah, yeah. Dizzy Wad Nuts.
No, whatnot.
Okay.
Whatnot. Yeah, he's a whatnot. He's a follower of James Watt, and in much like an astronaut, he's a whatnot. So,
Yeah.
Jamie's asking, is Eloy trying to recruit Mark into being a believer again? If you're not a believer, I don't know if I can handle that negativity, Jamie. You ought to be a believer. He
Yeah.
doesn't have to convince me. I was convinced when I heard baby, 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 oh, or something like that.
I
You know what
mean,
bothers me most about that, Eloy, is I actually know a line from a Justin Bieber song. That bothers me most.
I don't know any. I am so happy that I don't. Like, I literally don't know any. But you know through your grandchildren, right?
Actually, no. I know that from a YouTube video.
And you didn't quickly see what I do
Well,
is like,
it was a mashup. It was one of the. We're going all over the place, so sit down, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride. Um, there's an a cappella group called Pentatonics, and one of the first videos of theirs I ever saw was they did a mashup called "The History of Music," and they went from like the 15th century Gregorian chants and everything, and brought it all the way up to, at that time, modern music, and just did little samples, single lines here and there. Did a couple of Beatles tunes in the 60s section, and they had one line from a Justin Bieber tune in there, and it was that baby, baby, baby thing.
wow.
And but they're a fantastic group. They are, and a true testament as to how the music industry was 100% wrong and can be wrong, because their YouTube following made them rich beyond their wildest dreams. They have their first Christmas album was the number one selling Christmas album of the decade, and with no record label backing. They got it all through YouTube follows. I mean, some of their videos have a billion views. I mean, it's just astronomical numbers.
I have a different take that you'll probably disagree with.
It's that.
That you said that the music industry um
Was
what
just wrong.
was just wrong. Okay. I have a different take on that. Um so I think that there's so many potential great bands
Mm-hmm.
of out there available to be snagged up and turned into something, that pushed forward and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
that they have to say no to X amount of them. Um that could have been
Understood.
good. So I see sort of that. Now there are missed opportunities also that
Mm-hmm.
could be better than the ones that they pick and all that.
Right.
So I see all that. But on the flip side of that, I also see, this is where we might disagree. I don't know if you disagreed with anything I just said, but this is where we
No,
might disagree.
in fact, I agree with what you've said.
Okay. But this is the part that I feel that
Mm-hmm.
we would probably disagree with roughly
Mm-hmm.
thereabouts. And maybe because this one's a little bit more of a difficult point. This one has more hurdles to, for some people to accept as a thing. I
Mm-hmm.
accept it. I could be wrong, and it's this. In my mind, they could just the same, like the music industry, take a big hot pile of cow whatever, put it in plastic and put a bow tie on it,
Mm-hmm.
and flop it on asphalt and record that, make it into a theme, and people would still buy the crap out of it, because the key is not the content. It is for many people,
Mm-hmm.
but for popularity, for the
The
sake of,
hype.
right, hype based on peer pressure, style,
Mm-hmm.
influence,
Mm-hmm.
is probably a dominant factor. So that's the only thing that I would say.
And with that in mind, I'm looking straight at you, New Kids on the Block. No. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I would normally agree with you. However, when I say that the music industry was wrong, they were told by two labels. One of them they had a contract with, that these guys were uber talented. They were great, but they were not commercially marketable. And there was no future in record sales or anything else. Their second video that they posted won them their first Grammy. Their Christmas album that came out 2 years later, as I said, was the biggest selling Christmas album of the decade. They were commercially successful. That's why I say the music industry was wrong. Two separate labels told them that. What it was, they won one of those television singing competitions called the Sing Off. They went all the way through and they won it. They got a recording contract and $100,000. The record label paid off their recording contract and said, yeah, there's just not an album in your future. Sorry. Another record label heard that and said, oh, no, wait a minute, and tried to bring them in. They start working up an album and they said, yeah, you're just not going to be commercially successful. And they backdropped them. And both of those labels are basically begging for them to come and sign with them, and they're just not interested. You
I
know,
see what you're saying. Yeah. Well,
and the same thing happened with Lindsay Sterling. She is a violinist who just caught fire several years back, still plays sold out shows. Her YouTube channel exploded as well, and her online popularity. She was told a few times by a few people, there's just no market for your style of music. And she proved them wrong in spades, you know.
well, the idea that anybody, see, here's the thing. The idea that any one person knows when it
Yeah.
comes to things about taste,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's it's subjective.
Mm-hmm.
So, like anything, like let's say, I mean, you have a selection of things,
Sure.
in whatever category of entertainment, or like, I don't know, let's clothing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be anything.
Right.
And if you put out your 10 choices and there's the public at large, they're going to pick amongst that.
Mm-hmm.
And people will see their neighbor, oh, they like that. Well, and she's a popular person. And so it starts sort of tugging in here. So a lot of it is based on sort of like that, you know, oh, my neighbor has
Yeah.
this, or the popularity. Um, Intrinsically, I don't know that it just tastes and it becomes popular in terms of people start saying, "Oh, those are the cool people," or whatever. Um, that's not everybody. There are, like, let's say, I guess you get the point I'm saying. Like, imagine
Mm-hmm.
somebody in whatever timeline and they dress nerdy.
Yeah.
That's perfectly reason. Other than one's personal opinions and this and that and the socially this and that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's perfect if they're dressed, if maybe they're buttoned up in this, so what? But that's what I think now. Back in the day, I wouldn't make those thoughts.
Well, yeah, because, well, but see, styles change and you never know what the hell's going to take off. I mean, glasses were considered, I mean, you had people wearing painful before, soft contacts and all day wear and this, that, and the other. You had people wearing painful glass contacts and just putting weird eye drops in their eyes to keep them from turning red because they didn't dare wear glasses in a movie or on a TV show or anything like that.
Mhm.
And it was, I'm going to go out on a limb and say it was John Lennon with those little bitty circle lenses that made regular glasses, not sunglasses, made regular glasses cool. Because people saw those and went, well, he's confident enough to do that on TV. Why shouldn't I be? You know?
Then people started using all that, but he got that from.
And the whole glasses thing just kind of went away.
You know where he got his comfort in using glasses from?
Well,
Initially,
no, I don't.
pick a band.
I,
If you,
I do know that he was basically more or less blind without them.
Mhm.
His vision was so bad.
He liked Buddy Holly.
Was it Buddy Holly? Okay. Yeah,
And
Buddy
so he,
Holly was another one. If you took his glasses off, he was just basically hopeless because he couldn't see worth a damn.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but even Buddy Holly, even back then, Buddy Holly was considered the height of cool. Glasses still were not the thing. I mean, I remember the joke line, never make passes at girls who wear glasses. It was considered nerdy and forget about it. No, she wears glasses. I would
You
never.
know how many hot chicks were passed over because of that?
Uh-huh. And it's not a thing anymore. That's what I'm getting at. So styles change and our perception of styles change as well.
Mhm.
I mean, and I see people wearing stuff now that I wouldn't have dreamed of being caught dead
Like this gorgeous, like
having in my house, you know?
imagine this gorgeous lady, like back in the day, girl, and she's just a gorgeous, like this beautiful button of a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guys and stuff with their jackets and this and that walking down the street and all this and that. Oh, but once she wears, it's kind of like that Lou Ferrigno Hulk situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, but once she has these plastic things or metal little around her, oh, and yet she's sitting there, but nobody wants to talk to me. And no, it's sorry, honey, those glasses, it's just impossible.
Exactly.
Think how stupid it is.
Well, there's a movie called It's a Wonderful Life. It comes out around Christmas all the time. Frank Capra, Jimmy Stewart, and Donna Reed. And in most of the scenes, Donna Reed is not wearing glasses. She's got the long flowing hair, absolutely gorgeous. The premise of the movie, they try to show Jimmy Stewart what the town would be like if he had never been born. And this woman who was his wife, never married, never dated, never anything. And she was the stereotypical librarian, hair up in a bun and glasses, walking down the street with a book with her arms crossed over the book, looking old maidish and frumpy just because of the glasses thing. So yeah, I mean, it's right there. So
yeah, these are things that, I mean, it's just it's culturally or like popularity or who knows, the weird thing. Like all it takes is one sort of thing to sort of roll and expand into it becoming a thing.
Yeah.
A lot of our criteria when it comes to, we'll use the best example for me, the what's that leopard print thing that whatchamacallit wore swinging across the stage?
Ted Nugent, the loincloth. Yeah.
Okay, so due to all the information saved up in my mind and whatnot, and this and that, and this and that, to me, the image of a guy in a loincloth with a guitar in a concert, in comparison to people dressed in suits or cool jackets playing guitar, and watching this guy that looks like, you know, the guy from Flintstones with the club, there was something uncool about it that made me want to. But if you remove all the social connections to this and that, it makes no difference. He's wearing he could be with a pacifier and wearing diapers with a guitar on stage. Just all the assumptions that we're based on these popular notions and this and that when it comes to whatever category. But in the case of music, so I mean, human beings, what are you gonna do?
But you have to remember, and this kind of ties back in with the political statement. It's also with the stage performance you put on. Ted Nugent with the loincloth thing, how many people that bought tickets to go to that concert expected to see that? Now, if you went there knowing that that's what you were going to get, that's one thing. If you went there and went, what the hell? You know, that's another thing entirely. But
you better believe it's another thing entirely, because you're like,
yeah,
what?
yeah, wait a minute. You better make this make sense.
It's like going to a Paul McCartney concert and him saying, tonight we're gonna play all Rolling Stone songs.
Yeah.
It's like,
You
what?
didn't go to hear you didn't go to hear someone else's hits. Let's hear yours. So I don't know. We're funny in that we have several levers because I've contradicted myself probably 15 times in all of this that we've just been talking about.
What, like now, today?
Yeah, I've probably
No,
contradicted myself several
no.
times when I say,
I
no, I just want to hear you play, just sing, but I'm okay with you swinging around in a damn loincloth on a fake vine. But then again, you turn that around and you put that in a Tarzan movie and it's perfectly fine. You'd be mad if Johnny Weissmuller wasn't in a loincloth swinging from tree to tree
with a
because
guitar.
that's what you go for. Well, Guitar Zan, the old Ray Stevens song.
You know what? It's just, I mean, there's also, it's just so many things. But yeah, let's just say that everything we just said, and there is a certain amount of that sort of like popularity. I mean, it was everywhere, and it's still everywhere, but maybe the influences are different. So, I mean, it's part of the human thing. But what we can't do,
Mm-hmm.
or at least what I can't do now,
Yeah.
is when I see something that I think is uncool,
Mm-hmm.
deep down inside, like I'll do that we do back and forth here,
Mm-hmm.
but deep down inside, I know that
Mm-hmm.
it's just as valid
Yeah.
as any other thing
Mm-hmm.
that I might think is not, that I might think is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Why do I think it's dumb? Because of a certain amount of collection of thoughts that have piled up in to include what I think is cool and
Yeah.
what I think is, oh, that's kind of not cool. So
Yeah.
it's really, you know what I'm saying? So it's
I
kind of,
do. I know exactly what you're saying. And I don't know
yeah.
if it's the thing, something that you do, but it's like I kind of put myself in that and say, you're going to go out and stage in front of 40,000 people and you're going to dress up in that. Could I do that? Hell no.
You have to have
Like
brass.
like I could get up in front of 40,000 people anyway, but
You, you,
there
you,
ain't
you,
no
you, you-
way I'm
you'd have to
leaving
have.
my house. I'm not even having one of those in my house, let
Can you
alone
let
wear
me
it in public.
say the brass thing? For goodness sakes, you'd have to have brass. What
Well,
do they call it? Remember the balls that you'd hit, the jacks?
mhm.
But was it a brass? No, it was a rubber ball. You know what?
Yeah, it was a rubber
Continue.
ball. Yeah, and it would have to be bigger than that. We're talking the size of Alpha Centauri here. All right. Now, Jim Dockrell says the loincloth was part of the show, like the makeup on Kiss. Yes. Yes, it was.
Yeah, but excuse me. Here's another bias that's all personal and whatever.
Hmm.
But and I could be, I could almost be tempted to say, because other people believe like I believe on this
Hmm.
topic, that it makes it so, but it doesn't. But just the same, my opinion, the Kiss makeup
Hmm.
is perfectly reasonable in my, because it looks cool. The loincloth is, what's the word? It's embarrassing. It's almost like, oh no, oh no.
But
It's like that.
see, Kiss came out when I was in high school. And so their popularity started growing in the mid 70s. They got really big, Rock and Roll All Night and all of that. And then Kiss Alive 2 came out and all that other. And I wasn't all that damn impressed with it. I really wasn't. I thought that the makeup was ridiculous. I understood it because they weren't the first people to do it. I understood it. I got the game, the masquerade. What do they look like without all the makeup on? I
Yeah.
mean, I remember when Gene Simmons and Cher were dating, whenever, they could follow Cher, and there he was, and he said, standing there, with paparazzi taking pictures with, he's got a bandana covering his face. You know, I get it. It's showmanship. It's all hype. It's all this, that, and the other.
That's all it is.
I was never impressed with it. I'm like, give me Boston any day. These guys don't have to hide behind face paint, you know. So
Um,
I
there
know
was.
different style, but what the heck?
It's unfortunate because there was within this conversation, but I put it to the side. I put it to the side because we were on this roll,
Mhm.
and I can't quite pick it up. But I know it was something that would have been good within this thing. It's unfortunate. I don't know why I'm saying it out loud because you could keep that to yourself and save the issue. But it was some sort of current event type thing, but I forget now. But anyways,
No, it's all right. Let's see. Snow Crusher. Angus Young made a career with a schoolboy uniform. Yeah. And it was 100% legit. Angus Young was 5'2", or is 5'2".
mm-hmm.
Well, he may be shorter by now. I don't know. He's in his 70s. So, and his sister was the one that said, "You're up there bouncing around like a schoolboy." And he decided he would try a schoolboy uniform, liked it. The crowd responded to it. But he used to be out in blue jeans and a t shirt. But he decided to take on that persona of the schoolboy because it fit him. He's an itty bitty thing. And that's one of the reasons why he played the Gibson SG Junior, is because it's a small, lighter guitar. He preferred a Les Paul, but they're heavy.
They are super heavy.
Yep.
I owned
And
a Les Paul.
mm-hmm.
No, just a solid
Yeah.
freaking wood.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, I was a kid. I was 18,
Oh,
17, 18,
geez.
19, and I would be playing that for hours. My back
Mm-hmm.
would be in pain even at that age
Mm-hmm.
because of how heavy that thing slung across my shoulders was.
Yep. I'm
That's how
talking
heavy.
about a solid mahogany body with a maple top on it. Yeah. And that maple top was anywhere from a half inch to 3/4 of an inch thick. That was a
The
heavy son
thing,
of a gun. They're about 25 pounds, 30 pounds.
the thing was like a wine color.
Mm-hmm.
I went into Ed's Guitar
Mm-hmm.
and I saved up for this. It was like at the time I think it was either $600 or $800. I forget. That's a lot of money for me,
Mm-hmm.
and I was saving and saving and saving and saving and saving and saving. I wanted that. Actually, yeah, I wanted that guitar or a Gibson, but I had seen the color of it and whatnot. It was like a wine.
Mm-hmm.
It's just gorgeous.
Yep.
So I saved enough and I went over to Ed's Guitar, which is no longer around on Bird Road,
Mm-hmm.
40th. Went in, and it's funny because Ed's Guitar was situated in a little strip mall, which next to it there was this little like hippie
Mm-hmm.
uh joint where you'd go in and it was records, but also hippie paraphernalia,
Mm-hmm.
incense, posters, and all the stuff from that time. So kids would go and hit the music store, and then they'd run over and hit and just walk around. And the two guys sitting there that work there, they're
Mm-hmm.
like long hair, and they'd be there like, and you're like, hey, what's going on? And they'd be like, what's going on?
like the dude in the Big Lebowski. Yeah.
It
Hey,
was just like
man.
that. I'm serious. Like it was like,
Yeah, I know. It was the same with us.
it's weird, but how does that propagate these different personality styles that seem to be the same thing? It could be the way. I don't know. But
It could be, but it could also be the fact that you were in control of the music. When you ran a record shop or music store, you controlled what music was being played. And what music fanatic wouldn't love that job? I get to jam my own tunes and get paid for it? Hell yeah.
so I went and bought that guitar next door at
Mhm.
Ed's Guitar, brought it home. Long story short, it was very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. They're extremely heavy. And so he played the SG because it was much, much lighter. And it was available in a slightly shorter scale length. So, he could
Yeah,
reach all the frets.
they're more comfortable.
He's a very, very little guy. And Brian Johnson, the lead singer, he's only 5'4". That surprised me. I thought he was much taller than that.
A lot of musicians are short.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot of musicians are short. A lot of basketball players are tall. Go figure.
What can you say? And jockeys are even worse. What can you say? Let's see here. Jim Dockrell says the Norland era Les Pauls were so heavy they had their own gravity field. Yeah, yeah, they they were. I mean, you might as well pick up a piece of concrete, you know, because it was basically the same thing. So,
I wish
well,
I could remember that one bit that I wanted to. Go ahead. There was
well, no,
something.
I mean, we got off on a tangent about that, and I don't remember what the heck it was. We were talking about people throwing their political views and their, pointing fingers and it's like, shut up and play. And I'm not saying dance monkey. I'm just saying I didn't come to hear a lecture. I came to hear you play. And if you're not going to play, I'm gone. You know. And,
Yeah.
and I don't get that. I don't understand that. I know that everybody has an opinion. And we're people. People are people. You're gonna have an opinion.
Well, you have to have some sort of mechanism to look at something and try to suss out, and you might land somewhere where other people won't, and then that's where
True.
conflict.
Well, no, where conflict comes from is why do we think it's so important that we have to broadcast that opinion to everybody in the world? Why do we think that we're so important that us saying something has any meaning to it? I mean, I have all kinds of opinions. Some of them I share here, but I'd say about 95% of them I keep to myself because it just doesn't matter. You
Toilet
know,
seat down or toilet seat up?
you know,
Discuss.
Yeah,
Discuss.
I really don't care because I firmly believe that if you sit on anything without looking at it first, you deserve whatever it is you sat in or on.
Well, there's only two
Now,
choices of what you're gonna get.
that's not a popular opinion. So I suggest that no matter who you are, if that's where you're headed, you should look to see whether it is up or down.
Sometimes in the middle. So wait a second. Let's have an enlightening. Well, you might not want. I'll say. I'll admit. You tell me if you don't want to share. You don't have to
Mhm.
share. I
Okay.
will admit. I have in the middle of the night. I can count maybe one or two times where I've gone to sit.
And the lid was up. Well,
And but I've done one of these. Look, whoa, horsey, whoa! I've done that.
well, I haven't
Oh,
because
you see,
well, no, see, we have this thing in our bathroom called a
neither have
light
I,
switch.
Mark. Neither have I. Scrap it. Scrap it.
We
Go
we
ahead.
have a thing called a light switch. So I
Ah,
pull the door shut, turn on the light, and I look before I sit down.
right.
You know. So
Yeah. Well, I mean,
now, have you ever gone in the dark and sat down on the lid and went, "Whoa, wait a minute"?
yeah, I've done that. Have you?
I've almost.
So you're very skilled at not
No,
sitting in.
I use my eyes. I just look. I close the door because our bathroom light shines right on the bed. So I
Well, I'm
close
not
the
gonna
door,
sit.
I turn on the light, and I look.
I'm not gonna be stuffy. I said it. I said
Mhm.
it publicly. I've fallen into. I said
Now,
two times, possibly three. But if somebody says two, wait. But if somebody says two times, possibly three, you can, by the rules of what is there's a certain mathematics used. You can
yeah,
multiply that by this and that,
yeah.
and you can count. You can count at least half your lifetime you've been dunking into the toilet. No, just go ahead.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to think back as a kid if I ever did it as a kid. I don't know. I don't know if I ever did it as a kid. But when you're that little of a kid, you can fall in with the seat down. So
And if they flush, you're screwed.
the whole seat thing is kind of irrelevant.
If you're
So.
like this, look, wait, let's see if we can use the little window here. Like help,
Mhm.
help.
Yeah, really. Um, Now Jim has started something here. Buffy St. Marie wrote Love Lifts Us Up that Joe Cocker sang in An Officer and a Gentleman. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember who he sang it with. I can't remember her name.
Love lift us up where we belong.
Yeah. Um, but I'm going to claim my ignorance here. I don't know who Buffy St. Marie is. Now, down here, Greg compared her to Yoko Ono. So,
I don't even know who she is. I mean,
I don't know who Buffy St. Marie is. Let me guess. She was from Canada, right? Because there's a lot of good Canadian performers I've not experienced down here, but just
up there.
well, no, Canadian performers that I haven't experienced down here.
Oh.
So
Or up
okay,
there.
Greg says yes, she's Canadian. That's why I've never heard of her. So okay.
Oh, well, see, that's logical. See the connection there, folks? She's Canadian. Obviously, that's why I haven't heard of her.
Yeah. Okay. Boom. There it is. Indigenous Canadian American singer, songwriter, musician, composer, visual artist, educator, pacifist. Oh, okay. All right.
Pacifist.
Yeah,
Blood and guns.
she has the little thing that,
Oh, pacifierist.
pacifist. Yeah. I don't know. The tyranny of the language. Yeah, I mean, no shade on her. I don't know who she is, so I can't say whether she's better than Yoko Ono or not. But remember when I said that John Lennon without his glasses was basically blind? Goes a long way to explain Yoko Ono. So,
It's a complicated one.
Mhm.
You know that oh, you've probably heard the story and the documentaries and whatnot. I've been through all of those so many times and books. I forget. Does this happen to you? I think it's normal, but
What's that?
maybe it's just me. Let's say, I don't know. Let's say, so like what these guys just did, where they named the lady Buffy St. Clair, and this is that
St. Marie. Yeah.
St. Marie. Where did they get St. Clair?
Mm-hmm.
Um, does this happen to you where, let's say you have accumulated X amount of knowledge in your lifetime,
Mhm.
and things that you really enjoyed or like you really took like real attention to, and whatever category that might be, but just throw out all this stuff.
Mhm.
A bunch of it I don't even freaking remember. It's maybe
Yeah.
if I bump against something, it reminds me, oh, 150 years ago I used to actually, oh yeah, I remember this. But you can't quite bring yourself to authenticate it in terms of like a discuss. You can only say, oh yeah, I remember something like that, although you may have more knowledge about it, but you can't recall it.
Yes, it happens to me every day, all the time, several times a day.
Yeah.
Or I heard somewhere and I can't remember where that was. And I go try to find it and I can't find the reference that I had.
Yeah.
Or I can't remember where I heard it or where I read it, or if it was just something in passing I heard on TV, or if it was something while I was studying something in a book, for English class or what have you. So my brain is full of all these useless quote unquote facts, probably 3/4 of which have been proven wrong by this day and age. And I don't remember where the heck I got them from. And sometimes I'm very hesitant to even speak on a topic because I don't have any personal experience with it. And I have this info up in my head, but then again, I don't want to sound like an idiot. And if that info was wrong and I'm just repeating something from 150 years ago that was proven wrong time and time again, it's still stuck in my head. A good case for that, a good example of that is the American buffalo being extinct.
Yeah, we talked about that one
We
time.
talked about that a couple of weeks ago. I was taught that in school. I can't remember which class, I can't remember which teacher, but I was taught that in school. And I carried that information for years.
I did too.
And
I thought it was a done deal.
but I'm loaded with that kind of thing. Stuff that I was taught I mean, they call it the decay of facts. And even medical students, they will flat out tell students that are studying to become doctors
You're gonna forget it all.
and surgeons, no, that a good percentage of what we're teaching you today will be proven to be false or just outright wrong sometime in the next 10 years.
Could you imagine in the in the operating? Hey guys, what's this? It's a scalpel, sir. It's a scalpel.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah,
Go
really.
ahead.
But I mean, when you stop and think about it, these are people that make life and death decisions
Yeah.
every day of the week. And and I can't say half or a quarter or a third or anything like that. But if a good percentage of what they're being taught now is going to be proven to be false within 5 to 10 years, and there's no way of knowing what percentage and what that fact is, you know, it's craziness.
But compared to, well, it's a give and take, or it the it's more of it depends. Um, I gotta be careful because I just thought something. I'll just say it this way. I'll say it this way.
Okay.
Since you're with saying this, notwithstanding the year in which we currently exist in 2023,
Okay.
considering the advances up to this point, to include all the advances in that, I think the sweet spot for being in a situation where you needed such a care
Mhm.
was prior to the slightly between the 90s, and prior to the pandemic.
I mean,
That's a little sweet spot, because what happened, which I won't get into, but after the fact, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'll just leave it at that. I'm thinking to myself,
well,
oh,
I mean, and that's been going on since there's been a medical profession, simply because when you have to react to something and you don't even know what you're reacting to, and you don't know anything about it because it's too new, you don't know what the hell to do, you know? But I mean, something as simple as, for instance, a an ulcer. For decades, they thought that this was down to diet, that it was something wrong with the diet we were eating, and that's how it was treated. Stay away from spicy foods, stay away from raw vegetables,
mhm,
stay away from this, that, and the other. And you have a high acid level in your stomach and it's attacking your stomach lining. Your body hasn't built up enough pepsin to protect your stomach lining from the acid in your stomach, and
mhm,
by eating this certain types of foods, you're just aggravating things.
right.
And people with bleeding ulcers died. I mean, it wasn't just something that was a pain in the butt. People died. Then in the late 1990s or early 2000s, it was discovered that it was actually a bacteria that caused them, called H. pylori,
Mhm,
and that it could be cured with a round of very strong antibiotics, but it could be cured.
mhm. There's a lot of
So
things like that.
all of that medical, I mean, established medical science that was doctrine went out the window with that one discovery, that it was a bacteria, and treatment changed virtually overnight.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had guys like, to take it back to music, Tom Johnson of the Doobie Brothers, the original lead singer.
Hmm.
He was crippled by ulcers. He was hospitalized several times, and that's why he stepped down, was because he couldn't handle life on the road anymore. He couldn't do it. Michael McDonald took over. And for years, he was in the background, just barely existing. When they made that discovery, is when he made his comeback. And he went back to Pat Simmons and the rest and got the Doobies back together. And they went back out on the road.
See, I can't. No, good points, but I can't expand on what I was thinking, because it's just, not to be stuffy, but we're doing a show here, and there's, but I have thoughts that I can't even validate because it'll put us in an area that could snowball.
Yeah.
Um, like right off the bat, a very simple concept, easy to understand, whether one accepts it or not, that I could put out on the table. And I'm begging the question by even repeating it this long. But suffice it to say, I agree with you that obviously more advances as we go and stuff. There's a counter balance of insight that also is a quite the thing. But regardless of that, I actually, in line with that, but a little bit taking it further back into, like, let's
Different
say,
direction.
yeah. Can you believe that they were doing brain surgery in like these ancient things? And like I hear people say, and yeah, they were incredibly advanced. They were doing brain surgery, and I'm thinking to myself, did they have any business going into somebody's skull? I mean, I mean, what the hell were they looking for?
But did you ever notice that all these people who say, "Oh yes, they were advanced, they were doing brain surgery"? Do you ever notice that they never quote a survival rate?
Yeah,
You know, well,
no,
it's real
they
easy
just,
to open. It's real easy to open up somebody's skull, but how many of those people survived?
well,
I think
we don't
that's
know.
I think that's more important than the fact that they opened up somebody's skull. But yes, the practice was called trepanning, and there was one of the kings of France. I'm trying to remember who it was. He had like 6 sessions of trepanning. They would literally cut the hair back, cut the scalp back, and then cut a hole in the skull to release whatever they thought was being released. And he did it like 6 times. It's like, after the first one, I'm like, you know what? Things ain't getting any better. Let's just kind of stop.
The Vatican at
Mhm.
the in the medieval times, I've I guess it can be looked up, but the whole idea of bloodletting
Mhm.
was banned by them
Mhm.
at a certain time. They said no, 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 this bloodletting thing, and there was a reason for it. I forget now, but in light of that, local barber shop or barber
Mhm.
slash whatever picked up the practice and made tons of, hey, I'm not, can you let out some blood, because I think that, so
Yeah,
they go to
the bad
the
blood.
bar. Yeah.
Yeah.
um
And,
Crazy
well,
stuff.
I mean, it's easy for us to look back, but and laugh, but nobody knew. Nobody knew. They thought that diseases were caused by all kinds of things,
Bad air.
mainly having to do with bad air. Yeah, and that's exactly what malaria means. Bad air.
Yeah, it's
Um,
written right in the word.
right in the name of it.
Mal is
Exactly.
bad, air, malaria.
Well, and for I can see their logic because usually places like dysentery or cholera, in areas where you have that, it is a bad smelling situation because, I mean, let's face it, those are spread by human waste coming into contact with drinking water, and that's how it's transmitted. So they made that leap. They made that logical leap. If it stinks, it's bad. And the night gases, the stinky gases, are what's causing these illnesses. Well, no, but where you find those bacteria is the same place you find that stink. So they did it for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
But the treatment was effective, and that was keeping drinking water and sewage separate and getting sewage as far away from population centers as they could and providing fresh water. And it turns out that that did work. They still didn't know anything about bacteria. And, we're talking about hospitals up into the late 1800s, doctors and hospitals reusing bandages and reusing syringes and needles and things like that.
Like this, wait, like this, like this, like they just pull one, and like the doctor goes, oh, it's hot here, hey,
Mhm.
use this on that patient. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, or just lift back the dirty, nasty bandage, look at it and say, "Oh, we need to bleed you. Go get the let's go get the maggots and leeches, and we'll take care of this." And after the treatment, put that same bandage right back on.
They would have been as helpful if they just got a bat
Yeah,
and whacked people upside the head. No, but
yeah.
it's funny because um, even well, in some cases they were doing more bad than good. I think that like what you said originally, where like in what was it, like in 10 years or 15 years you said that it would be
Yeah.
obsolete. I think that's an astounding thing.
Yeah.
Because if X, whatever the percentages of practices being used now are counterintuitive to the betterment of patients, and that, you know what I'm saying, like in 15 years it would be better. But my little qualm within that was that not it doesn't necessarily follow that because the right direction is known by the medical industry that it's applied. And I was trying to go, but I halted myself. And you can I'll just say this, you can imagine the scope of what I'm saying in terms of specific things or in a
Sure.
process or whatever.
Sure. But that's where we get the political entering into it, because everybody has an interest,
Yeah.
And but then again, I mean, the person who discovered that a lot of the sickness that was the infection that people were dying from in doctors' offices and hospitals were being spread by doctors and nurses, because you had doctors that would treat this patient and not wash his hands and go to the next patient. So whatever this patient had, he's transmitting to that.
Yeah.
People were resistant to that entire thing, because what you're basically telling the doctor is, this is your fault. You're wrong. And too many egos would not accept it. And I cannot remember his name. He was a Hungarian physician. He basically died broke in an insane asylum. Nobody would believe what he was saying. He could prove to them, bacteriology was unknown, but they just refused to believe that there were these little living organisms that were being transmitted, and by me not washing my hands, no, it couldn't be my fault. It's got to be something else. And I mean, it was probably another 40 years before that idea was picked up by a few other surgeons, and they started running with it. Joseph Lister being another scientist, who came in with that type of a outlook on the medical profession and said, yeah, no, he's absolutely right. We've got to go antiseptic. And that's when the keeping everything, every instrument clean and sterilizing it, and doctors wash your hands, from one patient to the next, you wash your hands. You go to the bathroom, you wash your hands. You scratch your head, you wash your hands. You be as sterile as possible. And then it was picked up on by the rest of the medical community, and it's like, oh yeah. And then the invention of the microscope, that's what did it.
Yeah,
That's
it
what finally
revealed
drove it all home and said, oh my God, look at this.
the whole world, which is, it's just mind blowing, to be honest.
Well, it changed medicine. It
Yeah,
changed medicine, and it led the way for cures for tuberculosis, for the treatments of polio. I mean, all kinds of diseases were basically cured once this was known that this is actually a thing.
Yeah,
It was
it's like a leap.
huge.
It's like a catapult, right, forward into advance, right, from not knowing that to knowing that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also took a major ego hit to these doctors who were saying it couldn't possibly be my fault.
Yeah, because you're gonna have
It was.
because the problem is the human situation. It's that we're human, and our interest. I mean, it's very difficult because our personal interests and biases and worldviews, I think across the board, some people are more susceptible than others, but at the same time, it's a complicated.
Yeah.
Will not allow for certain things to break. Certain things have to break through
Yeah.
in order
Yeah.
to succeed crossing sort of like a boundary, because people have to protect their nest eggs
Sure.
and all this and that. Hey, let me share this with you. This is kind of but you did mention Hungarian, which was I've got two, and this is kind of where I delve too much into it, so maybe you guys
Okay.
are not necessarily, but I'll just mention it. So there's this thing called, okay, so I'll just say how Hungarian. Let's make it as ridiculous as possible. How Hungarian, like without giving backdrop, how Hungarian do you think I am? I'll clarify in a sec, but I'll
Yeah,
just say
you're
it
gonna have to, because I have no clue.
like honest to goodness Hungarian from Hungary.
I don't know.
Well, to be more nuanced, the question would better be said: how anciently Hungarian would you guesstimate that I could be?
Again, I have no idea.
Well, knowing whatever you know about me and history, just you
I
know,
I don't know. I don't know.
Hail
Because it's a
Mary.
complete crapshoot. It's a complete crapshoot.
It is
I
well.
don't know.
I'm saying it because they're so. It turns out
Mhm.
it just so turns out that I've been very confused for a very long time.
Oh,
When it comes to these things, because there's so much information out there, and I'm not studied in such things in a formal way.
Mhm.
But since the I guess like early 2000s, 2012s, 2015s going on, they've done the whole ancient DNA thing where they take bones, they sample their things, and then you could test to see how many segments modern people, actual people, have. Well, they've done this genomic study of the Iberian Peninsula, and people that derive from it today have a significant amount. I've posted the map on my thing. Um, they did a huge study across the peninsula to include Portugal and this and that. Well, I don't have a percentage actually. It was just a 2%, 20% Hungarian, 80% confused.
hey, we
That's
got to
what
include the audience. I mean, because I'm not willing to throw out a number.
they're all of them are correct in their own way. That's the beauty of this thing. So it turns out that anciently, people
Mhm.
from Eastern Europe,
Mhm.
the same people that populated the rest of Europe,
Mhm.
but some of these ended up in Spain, and like BC, like 2000 something BC, like really ancient back. They came in, and people from Iberia in general score very high um, anciently with these people. Now, this is anciently, and there's a whole way of understanding it, looking at it. But the point is
Yeah.
not that. The point is that all these Hungarian type people
Mhm.
from very ancient that they've dug out started to appear. Now they don't appear on, let's say, Jamie Pages. He does have a few. Some appear, but he has more of these Vikings and stuff. But these Vikings and whatnot, they're more close to now. But they are all from the same groups that came out west, right? But
From
you have
France.
you have all these Hungarian
Mhm.
types and surrounding vicinities, let's
Mhm.
say. And I'm in groups that study these things and look at it and whatnot, and they all get these results, and they're like, "Well, that can't be. This can't be." The that can't be syndrome.
Mhm.
Since I started this, I always said anything is possible because obviously anything is possible when you're seeing all these weird things.
Sure.
So it turns out with that study, it clears up that there was this population that came in and blended with the population that was in the Iberian
Mhm.
Peninsula and all that. So Hungarian, very, very, very non. What's the word?
From out in left field.
Yeah, you wouldn't. But when you're talking about thousands and thousands of years and
Sure.
people moving, so the average Spanish person has a significant amount of these people that you can actually trace, and so I have a truck. I was about to say load. I have a truckload of these connections with people from thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
That just became part of the population that formed in the Iberian Peninsula and whatnot. Anyways, so I just wanted to share that weird thing. There's some other weird things, but the other interesting thing is what Steve shared with me earlier, which is kind of along the archaeological.
Can I finish up wrap one thing up real quick, because I finally remembered the guy's name, that Hungarian who basically pioneered the antiseptic theory. His name was Semmelweis. I could not remember his name to save me. I had to Google it and everything, and I finally came up with him. Ignaz Semmelweis, and he was the first pioneer of the antiseptic theory, and he was worked at the Vienna General Hospital and what have you, and he put his own theories to practice, and he ran into conflict with established medical opinion at the time and what have you, but in his hospital, deaths were his mortality rate was the lowest because he actually practiced it, and that set the whole medical community against him. And again, he died basically a pauper in an insane asylum,
and yet he was correct.
And he was correct, and it just basically it drove him insane, the pressure and the pushback that he faced. I mean, he was relieved from positions and everything else. His life was basically turned upside down and destroyed by the medical establishment, because basically he was blaming the doctors for the death of their patients.
Yeah. So you see, popular. Sometimes it's counterintuitive because of people's interests, but yet his thing was adopted eventually because for obvious reasons it worked, and it was true. So
well, Joseph Lister picked up where he left off, more or less, and put it into practice himself, and basically proved that Semmelweis was correct, and just turned the whole medical community upside down.
Yeah.
And all for the better. So okay, that was it. I just had to get that out. But on the subject of Hungarian, Stephen Fry is a British actor, author, commentator, and comedian,
book writer.
His grandfather was Hungarian, and he has a line. He said his grandfather told him that a Hungarian was the only person who could follow you into a revolving door but come out first. What that means, I don't know, but there it is.
That's interesting. Well, no, it doesn't. It mean that they always end up on top, or at the best, on the best light, at the best position.
Yeah. I guess that's what that means. But crafty enough and smart enough to figure it out.
Steve says, in connection with the Hungarian thing, that they wouldn't be Hungarian since Hungary didn't exist yet. And yeah, exactly. But when they find the bones, they label it like in this. So they say Hungarian because it's, like where they find the bones. So they label it like whatever the town or place they find it.
Heidelberg or whatever.
Yeah.
Like Cheddar Man.
Exactly, like Cheddar Man, or any other number. But yeah, correct. They weren't Hungarians like we would think of Hungarians today. These were ancient, people that a lot of them moved out from that place as those groups expanded and ended up in different areas and whatnot. But I want to show you one that's medieval that I connect to. And this is from a post that I posted in a group. So I'll just share this. You can see how interesting this is, because I think it's pretty darn interesting. Let me maximize the thing. So this guy here is called Christopher Corvinus, from from a certain dynasty. Well, and this is their shield. You can see what I wrote here. I said, "Thank you for accepting my request to join the group. I've really enjoyed MTA these couple of years, and it's led me down some fun rabbit holes. I'm predominantly of Iberian ancestry, and anciently, it seems I've got a lot of Illyrian matches, like what I was mentioning to you guys right now, and broadly Balkan matches. In any case, I've Christopher Corvinus as a match, sharing 41.22 centimorgans with him across one chromosome, and I'm 54% closer than other matches to him, according to the site that does these matches. So I'm assuming there are others that share around 80 centimorgans with him or more, perhaps. And I have current day cousins that I share about the same amount with this Corvinus, and I know that we're all related in the big scheme of things, and that segments propagate. I just find it all really interesting. I also wonder if someone out there has done the math on these things in terms of how many people out there today share this match. I'd imagine it's a huge number.
Yeah.
So I'm basically informing them that I understand a basic amount, summarized amount of what goes on with all these things. But with this guy, literal guy, which is part of their royal dynasty, I share 41.22 centimorgans across one segment. So a stretch combination, I share that many centimorgans with him.
Yeah.
So I just found it interesting as hell. And this guy is a Hungarian. So hence what I was mentioning. It's very interesting because it's not, there's a word for it. It's not automatically an obvious thing considering but my mind is occupied with maybe the last that I'm aware of, the last 100 years of existence, and maybe historically the last 300 years, probably, if you're and I could go back because I've read some stuff, but I really only know a short little tandem of history of where the people. But a lot can happen in that, and so but there's a longer history too, so I found it interesting. But on the flip side of that, Steve shared a link, and it's about the Indians here in Miami, and they're the Tequesta Indians that lived here since the time of, according to what they've studied, since the time of the pyramids. These people, and there's a big developer that's developing in like their main. It's at the mouth of the Miami River. And like they're hustling to get as much done as possible in order to recover, because they're going to build a huge skyscraper, metal, so that dwarfs anything concerning archaeology. But they're trying to conserve as much as possible because these people were around forever and a day. So he had shared that. I think it's interesting. I'll link it later as one of the things in on the Trampled Underfoot Facebook page.
Interesting. So are they trying to do an archaeological survey before everything is, bulldozers going in and all that other good stuff? Or are they doing this in tandem with the development and trying to save these artifacts? And
they're trying to save it before they, what I got from it, before they, ruin the site.
Yeah. Okay. So development hasn't begun yet. This is still being proposed.
The place is leveled, and I think that they have some activity going on, but the archaeologists are there recuperating as much as possible. But they're concerned because it's a once in a lifetime.
You have to be concerned because once it's gone, it's gone. Once something has been moved, its archaeological context is lost, and now it just becomes a curiosity. Because without knowing what else is there, you take 6 arrowheads. If they're found in 6 different places, okay, they're arrowheads, and that's great. But if you got 6 arrowheads in one particular place, in one little pile, and then you've got something else over here and something else over here, well, now we can start to develop something else from that context. Was this a temporary camp? Was this a settlement? Was this a trading area? So archaeological context is sometimes more important than the physical object itself,
Yeah.
because without it, you just have another curiosity.
Well, they could always do like a bronze statue
Mm-hmm.
with a little plaque on it and say, "Here was the Tergestas.
Yeah,
Move along."
nothing to see here. Yeah,
And
really.
a Chick-fil-A and a Nike
Mm-hmm.
shoe store in between,
Yeah,
and the statue just sitting there,
yeah. With a guy out front with a wheeled cart selling T-shirts.
and
Yeah,
pigeons like, "Ooh,
yeah.
somewhere to sit."
Pigeons that'll steal a slice of pizza from you, or the
I
whole
mean, because
pizza
that's
thing, get their beak on it.
yeah, but that's the thing. So when I was watching, because I rewatched it again, Steve, because I had seen it before Steve sent it to me.
Mm-hmm.
I had rewatched it, or I rewatched it today after Steve had mentioned it. And I couldn't help but imagine that. How cool! This is just a thought. I know it doesn't figure into the plan because we're talking billions of dollars. These constructions and stuff like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just they're awash in money. I mean, they're swimming in a river of money. Swimming, they're swimming.
Yeah.
Dude. Anyways, it literally. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
well, not literally, figuratively. Um, so I thought, how cool would it be in the heart of Miami, at the mouth of the river? You have all this modern stuff galore.
Mm-hmm.
How about a whatever hotel or building, but they quarter off that and turn it into like a native, and like observation thing, and make it its own little thing within the structure. I mean, it might not be applicable to whatever
Well,
they're, but imagine the theme connection that could occur there for history. I mean, wow.
you have a video that your cousin sent you from Spain,
Hmm.
and I don't remember which city it's in, but it was, I want to say it was close to an airport. I may be wrong.
The cemetery.
What? No, this was like a Roman ruin
It's in the cemetery. Yeah.
that they built a building over, but left it intact while
Hmm.
they're still actually doing studies on the artifacts that they're
Yeah.
finding there
Yeah.
and what have you. So something similar to that. Build your hotel,
But leave a
but yes, let's enclose this area within the hotel and let the archaeologists work and let people see the archaeologists at work. You could build walkways with glass, so that people aren't throwing soda bottles down there and stuff like that. You could
yeah.
you could close it in and preserve that site and get to study what is there and what's going on there before it's just bulldozed and paved.
That's right. I mean, even keeping the theme in the heart of the city amongst
Hmm.
all that metal and glass and concrete is sort of grounding. I mean, for goodness sakes, we're talking about a civilization that died out.
Yeah.
But the point is not that. At the same time, it's paying homage and also keeping that memory alive of that. And I think it would add, I mean, who am I to say, but it would really make it like grounded to leave
Yes.
that as a thing. Boy, that would be so cool.
Well, not only that, but let's throw everything that we have both set aside for just a minute, and let's think at it from a business standpoint. Yes, you've got to get the thing built.
Mhm.
But if they were to come out and say, we're working with with these archaeologists to find a way to build our building, yet preserve this site for further study
Mhm.
and eventually open it to the public, can you imagine the PR points that they would make just strictly from a business standpoint, that we're not a bunch of greedy, evil developers that are willing to bulldoze history and bury it, throw it away just for the sake of making a little bit of coin off of this building that we're going to charge people to rent space in?
Yeah.
The PR points that company would score would be off the chart. Now, how much interest there is in that particular civilization, I don't know. But I think that there is a way that they could make it work for everybody.
Yeah,
Because we've seen it in the past.
We don't know the logistics only just within what that I'll post the thing, but we don't know like the logistics, but I mean, it is a cool off the top idea because not only does it conserve this, but space is also costly, and so maybe they just want. But I mean, I don't know. I think history is good to preserve. Obviously, I'm biased.
Well, sure. Well,
but at the same time, I think it's beyond even my interest. I think that history is literally important because so that other people can later come along and say, "Oh, that's what happened here."
Well,
at least
it may be a cliche to say, but I do firmly believe the cliche that says in order to know who you are, you have to know where you came from.
Yeah, you absolutely.
And
without that, there's nothing.
I mean, when history is gone, that's just it. It's gone. But Jim points out there could be some problems. Excuse me, our dig has to be extended under the front desk. Well, the front desk may or may not be a problem, but if you're talking valet parking, now we have an issue.
What if they're sitting in the Chick-fil-A and in the middle they have an enclosure and they're like sand is being kicked out and they're working.
All of a sudden a shovel pops through. Oh, y'all eating here? Sorry. I could see the headline tomorrow. Florida man digs a hole in Chick-fil-A. Yeah.
Or you're in the toilet going back. Let's take it full circle. You're sitting on the toilet in the lobby of the and you look down and a head pops up with a hard hat and a thing is, sorry, I'm working.
Yeah. We got to put these cones out here. You're going to have to leave, sir.
Don't push that hard, sir.
I think we've I think we need to land the plane because we've already gone past the limit. We have pushed the boundaries.
Sir, with the flashlight.
Yeah.
Sir, you're going to hurt yourself there, sir.
Time to land it.
Oh, I shouldn't have gone there, for goodness
No,
sake.
you shouldn't have gone there, for goodness sakes. But that just shows you the range that we have on this podcast. We started out talking about rainy, drizzly Oregon, and we ended up digging from underground and tunneling into the men's room at the Miami local Chick-fil-A. Literally should have made that left turn at Albuquerque.
I mean, let's not even say, because there's no way with the piping that would happen, but in a cartoon, absolutely it could happen.
Yeah.
I mean, for goodness sakes. Oh,
yeah,
please.
I wasn't even going to go there. I wasn't even going to go there.
Don't call me sir.
Don't even go there.
Could you?
No, I did. No, don't even go there. I want to go back to Joseph Lister and Ignat Semmelweis.
Okay, let's leave it at that. All right, folks. None of this that we're saying has any is not. There's a wording, right? Okay, none of what we're saying is in any way the opinions. The opinions of the show is in no way the opinions of our sponsors.
If we still have a sponsor, the opinions expressed on this podcast in no way reflect those of our sponsors or management.
It's just in any event. So we go live every Tuesday. We need, you know what we need? A little flush button. You know how the shows. So every we go live every Tuesday, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast Time, here on the Trampled Underfoot podcast show on YouTube. We also have a website, and it's called Trampled Underfoot Podcast.com, and you can catch our past episodes over there. And we also have a Facebook page, and I'm going to post that video. I won't tell you which one. It's up to you to go search it out, but I'm going to post that video, and you can check that out over on the Facebook page. We're also sponsored by
Harneal Media, your web solution. Look, if you are thinking about a web presence, or if you have a web presence and you are looking to firm up that web presence, there's no better way to do it than with a website with the domain name of your choice. Having that email address with yourdomain.com at the end of it is also a very professional touch. And I can speak from personal experience that there's no better place to start than with Harneal Media. You see him out here in the chat for all of our podcasts. There's a link to Harneal Media in every one of our podcast episodes. I would strongly suggest that you talk with Steve over at Harneal Media. That's HARNEAL media.com, sponsor of trampledunderfootpodcast.com.
All right, thank you for that. I enjoyed the I just can't, the last thing was like unnecessary, but for some reason it happened. Uh Nothing. Listen, I had a good time. I hope you guys did too. Enjoy the rest of your week, and be safe. Mark, any final words?
See ya.
Peace.